President Bush unveiled his new education program yesterday. It comes after a report this week that some American companies are going overseas because foreign workers are better educated. It's no news that American children have fallen behind. Some say one solution is to start teaching them at an earlier age. But Stone Phillips has found an energetic, somewhat eccentric woman whose message is, let the kids be kids. What does she mean by that? Watch.
Looking at the preschoolers in this California classroom, you say to yourself, now this is the kind of place where kids can really learn. It's quiet.
1:30.
They can think.
Put it on the shelf.
It's organized.
Okay, boys and girls, let's go line up so we can have lunch.
And so neat.
Go wash your hands, Fred.
And the kids?
That's enough, Ferris.
Well, it's hard to believe these are 4-year-olds. They do exactly what they're told. They know the rules, and they follow them.
Robert, Joseph, come on, wash your hands. We'll get to the table, sit down. Kathleen, put that in his hand. Okay, be back to me. Please sit down. Please walk. Come on, Joseph, put your book away. Kathleen, come on, so you can watercolor. Kelly, come up on the table, please. Come on, Miss Jones.
Now, you'd think a classroom like this would make any school director proud. But the director here, Mr. Thaxton, doesn't like what he sees. In fact, today he's brought in a visitor he hopes will turn things around.
I'm appalled when I see kids sitting on their bottoms and the teacher's going on and on and on and everybody's going shh, 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 shh.
On your bottom, Omar.
Her name is Bev Boss, and for the past few years, she's been turning things around in preschools all over the country. And she says the problems in this classroom are problems she sees all the time.
Kids having to stand in line way too long. Teachers doing things for kids that they don't need to do for them.
You use a lot of colors.
Kids not excited. There's no zest or passion. We have enough color by number people. We want people who can think, because those kids are going to write the new computer programs. Those are the kids who are going to solve the environmental issues. Those are the kids who are always going to look for a different way to do something.
Okay, when you finish drawing your picture.
Boss says these 4-year-olds ought to be yelling and running around. There ought to be fewer rules and more play. It ought to look more like this. This is Bev Boss's school near Sacramento, where she has taught for 30 years. When she says school should be fun, she means it.
Now, I don't establish rules. There's only 3 times I interfere. If the child's going to hurt himself, if the child's going to hurt somebody else, or if a child's going to destroy property. I say to myself, will the end of the world come if I just let this go? Could a kid learn something? Could a kid grow? Could he negotiate a little bit with another kid?
Now, believe it or not, this classroom is a national model, recognized by experts in early childhood education as an ideal learning environment for preschoolers.
There is a perception when you walk into a classroom where children are active that it may be chaotic, but I think what's important is that what we see is child choice and child-initiated activity.
Sue Bradykamp is president of the oldest and largest organization of early childhood educators in the country.
When children are playing, they are learning. In fact, they're doing some of the most important learning that they will ever do in their lives.
I'm painting the floor. I'm painting the floor, too.
It seems so chaotic. Kids painting on not only the paper, but everything else in the classroom. Kids taking off their clothes.
So, I mean, but what does it matter? Again, think about it. Will the end of the world come? Kids don't catch colds from taking their clothes off. There's nothing wrong with that. See, I think we have interfered for so long, and what we try to make kids is young adults. They're not young adults, they're kids.
Blowing bubbles every day?
Every day.
Is that a learning experience?
Well, how come a bubble's always round? I mean,
obviously, I didn't learn the lesson. I needed a few more bubbles in my
Even if you
early
use a
childhood.
square thing, it's air pressure. And kids just seeing that and just doing that, even if they never learned anything from it, just the sense of joy when you see those kids chasing those bubbles. What difference does it make?
What about those who say preschool should be just that? Preschool. Letters, numbers are important.
We should never have started to call it preschool. What we did was we kind of set ourselves up for criticism because we said we're getting ready for school. But let me tell you, you can't get kids ready for school. You got to get schools ready for children.
Helping schools get ready for children has practically become a full-time job for Bev Boss and her assistant.
Fit it in until way into the fall of '92.
Her calendar's booked till 1993.
At some point I got to start taking requests. But...
She's on the road every week, called on constantly by teachers and preschool directors across the country for speaking engagements, seminars, and workshops. Some say she's a modern-day Johnny Appleseed, who comes to town with her box of ideas to teach the teachers, spreading seeds of inspiration wherever she goes.
Anybody who doesn't have a toothpick and a piece of wire? Anybody in this room?
At this seminar, it started with some toothpicks and a little wire.
Wrap it around the toothpick down low, just once. Just wrap it around. You will find a place where it balances, and it'll balance no matter where you put it. You can put it on your tongue. You can put it on your nose. You can put it any place you want to, and the darn thing will stay there. You can put it on your finger.
And for these teachers, it ended up as a lesson in what Bev Boss considers the basics. And they're not reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Look at hers. Look at hers. The basics are number one wonder, wanting to know everything on this planet. Look at you people with this toothpick and this wire. I mean, you've just gone nuts, wanting to know. Everybody's saying, oh, that's good. That's what I want. Discovery. From zero to forever, you don't learn much till your bottom. Again, you got to discover it. You got to do it yourself. Experience. Experience is not the best teacher. I think it's the only teacher. Put them on your ears.
And anything that will heighten experience for the child, Boz will use, no matter how silly.
Your hands, hook them on. Look at this. Ooh. When you take a kid on a nature walk, you got to have ears like this.
Boz has hundreds of ideas to help teachers make learning more fun for kids.
Do it with a heart.
But what she encourages most of all is for teachers to lighten up.
Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Eyes and ears, nose and nose.
Is she doing and saying the right things?
Definitely.
Is she a radical?
Actually, no. In some ways, she's a conservative because the kinds of things that she's advocating are what early childhood educators have known to be best practices for more than 100 years.
Nice painting, Zach.
One of those practices is what experts call age-appropriate learning. It's making sure that what kids do in the classroom is geared to their stage of physical and mental development.
Are you ready?
And it's central to Boz's whole philosophy.
What do you think? 1,000 times I've said you can't make a 3-year-old be a 4-year-old. I think of life as a book. There are chapters and stages. And if you don't complete the stage, then you're not prepared for the next stage.
There's been a trend nationwide for the last 10 years that has been toward what we call a push-down curriculum, so that what used to be taught in first grade is now taught in kindergarten. And what used to be taught in kindergarten then gets pushed down into preschool and even earlier.
Okay, now let's do your last name.
Education is not a race. It's not who gets to the finish line first, it's who stays with it longest.
And...
This is the creme de la creme preschool in Houston. Here, preschoolers take foreign language and computers. They start learning their letters at age 2. And by the time they leave for kindergarten, most can read.
Mommy, you want mommy? Mommy.
Roberta Babb is the director.
I really get upset with people who say, well, children shouldn't learn to read until they're in first grade. Just wait till they're 7 years old. But they ought to have the opportunity to decide if they want to do it. It ought to be there for them. They shouldn't wait until they get into first grade. By the time they're in first grade, it's too late.
But Boz says spending years teaching preschoolers to read is inappropriate and a waste of time.
Let me tell you how long it takes to teach a kid how to read. Let me tell you. If the child is ready, if their vision is ready, if they're ready, it takes 24 hours, 24 one-hour sessions to teach a kid how to read. If they're not ready, you set them up for failure, they don't feel good about it, it takes a lifetime, and they never love it. And you know what they read? They read the newspaper, they might read the Time magazine, but they never read the novel. They never read with passion. And no giggling.
Earlier is not better.
It says, the big elephant makes big poop. Look at this.
Boz says at age 4, kids shouldn't be learning to read. We should be reading to them.
And the little mouse makes...
Little Pooh.
Yeah.
You welcome interruptions.
Where is the snake's bottom? You know, I never see kids asking questions as interruptions. That's kids entering the learning process. See, I see teachers flinch when kids interrupt. If they don't interrupt, I think there's something terribly wrong.
But interrupting's rude.
Oh, life is a conversation. If you stayed on the first page for the whole story time, it would be okay, because that's what the child was interested in. It's not getting to the end of the book that matters at all.
So what does matter? What are the crucial lessons for preschoolers according to Bev Boss? Boss believes one reason many of our kids fail is that preschools spend too much time on letters and numbers instead of social skills.
Kids have to be social by 6. If they're not social by 6, what happens to kids, if they don't know how to give and take, if they don't know how to negotiate, if they don't know how to make friends, fight, go back to that friend, what happens is that other kids push them away. Then the kid gets pushed away by the teacher. Then what happens? It gets pushed away by the principal. And then all of society pushes them away. Whether we survive or not on this planet depends on how we socialize.
Boz says the other reason kids fail is that we're afraid to let them take risks.
One of the #1 conditions for self-esteem is risk. And we just take it away. We're afraid that a kid's going to get hurt. We're going to get sued. I'm going to be in trouble. A mother asked...
Those are real problems in a real world. Yeah, getting sued,
you know
getting
what?
hurt.
Guess what? Our kids risk probably 100 times a day in our school. And you know that nobody in our school's ever had stitches? How do you ever find out what you can do if you never risk? Developing a self or a sense of yourself. What they find out from taking that risk is that they can do that. That challenge. I can do this.
If you're right.
I am.
If in fact you are right. How have we missed the boat so badly?
I don't know, and I think about that a lot. I only know it isn't working. We need to take everything we do at an early childhood level and move it up into the public schools and into all schools, where the kids walk in the door and they're excited and they're passionate and they have a zest for learning. Then we're going to have quality education. It is possible. It is possible. Here she comes. Woo-hoo! I had lunch with you, didn't I? We sat at the same table. And above all, life ought to be fun. Oh, life ought to be fun for kids.
You smell like cookies.
I smell like cookies? It's true.
What a dynamo. But Stone, children can learn early academically, I think. I'm thinking of Japan now, which has pushed early academic learning to an extreme, and they've been so successful at it that they're beating us in business.
That's true, and it can lead to higher test scores, but it doesn't always make for more creative thinking. For instance, did you know that Japan has produced only a handful of Nobel Prize winners compared to 200 from this country? And the most literate nation in the world, Hugh, Denmark, doesn't even begin to teach reading till kids are 6 or 7 years old.
You know, her sessions look like there's no structure at all to them. Is that deceptive? Does she have a structure?
Well, there is a structure. It starts with free time, and boy, is it free. But then there's circle time, and there's cleanup time, and there's snack time, and there's a story time. And kids are free to deal with letters or numbers if they want to, but they have to initiate it, age appropriate.
Very, very interesting. Thank you, Stone.
Wouldn't you like to go to that class?
A lot of fun.
Doesn't it look like fun?
A lot of fun.
Well, when we come back, some thoughts about gossip, tabloids.
Prime time from New York. Here now, Diane Sawyer.
Good evening. Tomorrow morning, 4 million children will head off to daycare. By the year 2000, 4 out of 5 tiny Americans will be cared for outside the home. For parents, it's always a lump in the throat because choosing a daycare center is one of the toughest decisions a parent makes. We know after this evening, a lot of you are going to write us saying there are many good daycare centers, and you are certainly right, there are. But you should also know that experts say half the facilities in the country are not giving children the care they need or the care parents think they're getting. We thought it was important to find out what it's like for a child in one of those centers. So we started our investigation by making calls in 8 states from California to South Carolina. We looked into 40 facilities and set undercover cameras into 18. Over the next few minutes, you're going to see some of what we found. And we will be concentrating on 3 centers within a few miles of each other in New Orleans to show just how difficult it is to make a choice for your child. Adam Onabane is 5 months old, and his parents are passionate about their only child. But Deborah Onabane wanted to finish college, so they had to look for daycare. Ed says, like all parents, they hope to find a place that would love Adam the way they do.
Goodness, I want to do so good. I want to do what's right. And,
What was your worst fear? What was your biggest concern about daycare?
What wasn't our biggest concern? There's so many things that could happen these days that you have to have a little bit of trust.
The Onabanes found a daycare center. But what they didn't know is that we happened to be undercover in that center the day they arrived. Remember the Onabanes? We're going to return to them later. But before we do, we're going to show you some of what we saw in daycare centers around the country. In center after center, we found chaos, children running wild, screaming all day long. Hungry children who fell asleep because nobody fed them. We saw filthy floors, children sleeping next to smelly pails of dirty diapers, broken cribs, unsafe changing tables, children who were kept in cribs all day long. This one got his leg stuck in the bars. No worker was in the room for hours. When this child tried to climb out of an open window, the worker walked by, but doesn't stop him. And there was this. You are about to see the result of a 3.5-month investigation of daycare centers. We concentrated on centers in the moderate price range. To gain entry, we said we were observers doing research. We said we weren't allowed to take care of children, that we could only watch. And that's how we filmed what really goes on when the parents leave and the doors are closed. This is the All-American Daycare Center in the outskirts of New Orleans. It's licensed as a Class A facility.